Do you expect them to default on that payment? And do you expect Beijing to step in and find an adequate solution to stop things spiraling out of control?
Yeah, of course, there's a good possibility of them defaulting, but the amounts are not that big. I think it amounts to roughly 200, 300 million, which shouldn't be a big problem. But apparently, they're really at the back of the whole situation here, and they're going to have a lot of trouble coming up with cash. The property is there, the land is there, but the problem is how to liquefy it. And you've got 120,000 employees to pay, so it's a pretty much of a big mess. But they're not the only one. Don't forget, there are other property developers that overextended themselves, are in trouble. And more importantly, the Communist Party has got their sights on these property developers because they see these guys becoming billionaires, and yet housing is expensive. And they want housing prices to come down for the common people. So I think the property developers are going to be in deep trouble for quite some time now. And, of course, the bond market, of course, is in trouble as well because of the defaults.
So, Mark, with that political balance in mind, what are the chances that this gets out of hand, that Beijing fails to help the sector quick enough and it gets out of control?
Well, first of all, I don't think they will want to help these guys. They're going to, first of all, force them to sell their holdings. I mean, it's amazing to think that Evergrande was involved in financial products, selling financial products to people who are buying property and so forth. That's crazy. And I think the government will force them to be selling all these products, and these businesses, other businesses, for example, electric cars. What are they doing in electric cars? So that's the first thing. And of course, at the end of the day, the banks are not going to go under as a result of Evergrande or even any other property development, because at the end of the day, the government can always step in. They control the banks, and they have lots of reserves. So I don't see any Lehman-type event taking place.
So are you also downplaying the chances that this could actually impact Chinese GDP?
Oh, it will affect the GDP. There's no question about that. And don't forget, it's not only the property developers, but what's going on with Alibaba, Tencent, and that whole sector. That will affect GDP. Difficult to say at this stage how much, but there will be some effect at the end of the day.
Mark, would you advise U.S. equity investors to avoid Chinese stocks at the moment during these question marks over the GDP growth and the property sector, but also the clampdowns that we've seen by Beijing on excess in terms of successful capitalism?
I definitely would not advise avoiding China. I think you've got to be in China. The huge market, the growing market. And some of the things the government is doing are actually beneficial to investors because corporate governance is going to be a heck of a lot better going forward. And of course, there are many small and medium-sized companies that are going to be benefiting from these movements by the Chinese government. And don't forget, the likes of Alibaba, Tencent have come down dramatically, and there may be some pickings in that area as well. You have to look at it carefully. My personal preference is for the smaller and medium-sized companies. Of course, when you talk about small and medium in China, it's pretty big. These companies are pretty substantial.